Georgia must retain their players. They must build seniority, do a better job of holding on to depth, because last year's team was potentially the worst team of the Kirby Smart era minus 2016, and it's only getting tougher to build depth. It's only getting tougher to maintain your status as an alpha dog in recruiting. Just is. Average rank per recruit in the top end recruiting classes is only getting worse as talent spreads itself out. And Georgia is one of these schools that is an NFL factory. They are right now the premier NFL factory in college football. So what happens when a player is viewed as a good NFL prospect? They leave as soon as possible. At least that's what it feels like to me when I look at whether it's Michael Williams or whether it's Malachi Starks. And those are obviously the big players where it probably makes sense for them to leave after 3 years in college because they've come close to maximizing their draft potential, their draft capital. However, when I'm looking at Georgia's 2022 recruiting class, this is entering 2025, so 22, 23, 24, 25, and they should be seniors or redshirt juniors, and there are just a good amount of those players who are already gone off to the NFL or who have entered the portal. And Kirby Smart's talking about how a plurality or majority, I forget what the exact percentage was, but a good chunk, over a third, over 40% of his roster are first and second year players. Well, I mean, Georgia's never been thinner than they have been now in terms of depth and in terms of really seniority when you look at it. By blue chip ratio, they're actually getting more talented, but blue chip ratio is not gospel. It's just a tool. And you'd rather have a roster that's slightly worse in blue chip ratio, but that is a full year or in some cases a year and a half or 2 years older, where you're bigger, faster, smarter, you're more indulged in the playbook. Before we resume this segment, please take a few seconds of your time to make sure you have liked the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for the channel and for any team podcasts and playlists linked in the description, and also comment your thoughts down below in the comment section and join my Discord server via the description. All of those things I just asked you to do are completely free, and they sign you up for things related to my channel, or they don't sign you up for anything. No cost to you, and all the benefit to you because we release daily college football content here on College Football with Sam. If you want to support the channel monetarily, sign up for a YouTube membership or check any other links in the description for my merchandise store and Patreon page. Thank you very much, and let's get back to the segment. That can oftentimes matter more than having maybe a half point or a point added onto your average rank per player from their high school recruiting rankings. You get what I'm saying. So when I look at this Georgia team and their schedule, Georgia, minus 280 to make the playoffs, they're up there with Texas being favored to win the SEC. I lean positive at most positions for Georgia. Quarterback and defensive back, I have some questions, but I still think those positions will be good. Quarterback will be good or above average, and I think DB will be great. Just lean negative on them relative to really Georgia's either roster potential, the expectations nationally, or what they were out of high school, or how I think Georgia should perform there. So quarterback, for example, I think will be above average or good, but I don't think Stockton, for example, will be as good as Beck or as good as Stetson Bennett. So he will be a regression compared to Georgia's previous two quarterbacks and the expectations they've built there. Could be wrong. That's just my prediction and outlook. I like running back, for example, with Nate Frazier and Josh McCray, because Georgia recently at running back after 2021 when they had Zeus and then they had James Cook there. They had Zamir White and James Cook. They haven't really had a feature back. It's been a back by committee of players that really aren't, high-level NFL caliber players at running back, and they've had injuries there. So that's why I lean maybe positive there, even though it's not one of the best running back rooms in the nation. And then they always do well on the line of scrimmage at recruiting and developing. A wide receiver I love for Georgia. I think it's going to be their deepest wide receiver room in a minute for the Bulldogs. maybe deepest in the Kirby Smart era, looking at, how they bring in Zachariah Branch, they return Dylan Bell, Colby Young comes back, they bring in Noah Thomas from Texas A&M, for example. I look at their linebacker group with C.J. Allen and Raylan Wilson. Love that. DB, I put DB in both the positive and negative area, and that is because I like some of the starters they have. So KJ Bolden and Dalen Everett are really good players. They're going to be future NFL studs, but they also have some depth concerns there. So DB's a little bit in both camps. This team can go 12-0. It helps that they only play 1, 2, 3 true road games, all against opponents who are not going to be close to them in terms of power ratings. Doesn't mean they can't lose any of those games, especially to Tennessee or Auburn. But they only have 3 true road games, 2 neutral fields versus Florida and Georgia Tech, and then 7 home games. It's a very advantageous schedule. I think realistically, their ceiling's probably 11-1, given some of the depth concerns and all they lost after that team last year really struggled to get to 10-2. Their strength of schedule rank, from my perspective in the SEC, is 6th. It's going to be hard to beat all of Alabama, Florida, Texas, Georgia Tech, Auburn, Tennessee. It's doable. Not the most likely outcome, but it's doable because of how talented they are. They only bring back, though, 46% of their production, and that was the norm entering 2023, entering 2022. The only recent Georgia team that returned more than half of their production, or more than 60% of their production, was the 2024 team entering that season. And look what happened. They went 11-3. They beat Texas twice, won the SEC. They had a lot of struggles, though, and Ole Miss dominated them and blew them out. Nearly lost to Georgia Tech. They lost to Alabama in what could have been a blowout. Georgia showed persistence, though, and made it a 1-score loss and could have won in that game. I think when I look at Georgia, they have the best coach in America. They have, right now, the most talented roster in America coming out of high school. I know blue chip ratio, Alabama and Ohio State are ahead, but Georgia has recruited in terms of an average rank per recruiting class at a higher clip than Ohio State has. And recently they've done a better job recruiting than Alabama for about 2 cycles in a row. And they haven't had the same roster turnover or developmental issues that Alabama has had really over the past 4 years, not just the past 2 years. It would help Georgia to bring back players because this defense has, I think, suffered from being such an NFL factory that players, the good players, after 3 years just want to leave because their draft capital's maximized so quickly that in a certain way, it's almost like, what's the point? You've done everything you can do for me. I'm going to go off to the NFL. That's sort of what it feels like. I mean, they don't have a Jalen Carter. They don't have a Jordan Davis. I mean, maybe Christian Miller can be that. But it feels like they have these players who start there for 1 year, then go off into the NFL. And that can work, and that especially worked in the 2010s when you could stack all SEC caliber players in your 2 deep or 3 deep at Alabama, and Georgia was able to do that in 2021 and 2022. You can't really do that anymore. With more schools recruiting at a high level, trying to be alpha recruiters, and then just how the portal works, how NIL and paying players works. That's very hard to do. So I'm not saying retaining the roster's easy. I'm saying that it would be very helpful for Georgia to do that, is just my point here in saying that. The lines of scrimmage would be stronger for sure. O-line and D-line injuries would not be as devastating if Georgia could retain key players. And it would also make the SEC schedule more manageable if they could somehow retain depth, whether that is trying to pay guys to come back instead of having them leave for the NFL, or somehow trying to make a cultural change to where you can convince players to do that. That's something where I think the Big Ten is ahead of the SEC in, is Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan have been able to, Oregon, it's not quite there, but then again, Oregon had some players come back in 2024 that, could have probably went on to the draft after 2023. just intuitively thinking about that. I don't exactly know. But those schools, the traditional Big Ten powers in the old Big Ten, Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan, have done a good job of retaining NFL guys to come back for their senior seasons or their redshirt junior season if they're, a 3-year player and they could go off to the NFL. But hey, come back for a 4th year and help us win a title. If Georgia can find a way to mimic that, it would help raise their floor a ton, and it would also raise their ceiling a little bit too. Senior leadership helps you win close games. It helps you pull away, gives you a level of maturity and intelligence and also strength that these younger teams sometimes don't have. Oregon, for example, this is one of my concerns with Oregon this year. Yeah, they're extremely talented. They're also extremely young. So some older teams that don't have the talent they do could be bigger, could be stronger, probably aren't as twitchy, but could be bigger, stronger, and more familiar with their team's playbooks and strategies and come out with a win against the Ducks, or maybe 2 wins, for example. Senior leadership can move your goals. It can move your goalposts in a positive direction, or it can help you break through a glass ceiling or rebound, maybe when you lose a lot, even. So in looking at this upcoming class and trying to read in between the lines from what Kirby Smart is saying, I feel like Georgia wants to move in this direction, where Kirby Smart's talking about how, he wants guys who want to, they want to win, they don't feel comfortable, they're always trying to improve. A lot of that language is used by teams, I believe, who do a good job of, building culture, retaining seniors, and really building experienced and balanced rosters. And Georgia builds very balanced rosters. I think that Kirby Smart is the best head coach in America, and him and his staff do the best job of churning out NFL talent and recruiting at a high level. However, one area where I think they could improve is seniority and holding on to players and allowing them to age that additional year or two. And I think that would make it easier for Georgia to get back to the national championship, which they have not played for since 2022, and to have more of a consistent hold on the SEC. And right now they are the number 1 program in the SEC, but it would help them to, continue to fend off Texas and Alabama and anyone else who wants to challenge them if maybe they find a formula, they find a way to hold on to older players while the rest of the SEC continues to, struggle with that. I mean, look at Texas. Texas had several guys who could have come back, and they didn't. Same with Georgia. Same with Penn State, except Penn State bought their players to come back, paid them, and also had the culture and the buy-in to bring them back too. I think Georgia must retain their players in the future because it's only going to be harder to build consistent depth. You can't always make elite evaluations, even if you have a great staff and fantastic head coach. The game is changing and it's chaotic, and how you can bring stability to your team and give them a better chance to win the national championship is, I think, to retain some older players, bring some stability into the locker room and stability on the field. Thank you for watching College Football with Sam. Make sure that you've liked the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for the channel and team playlists and podcasts in the description, join the free Discord server where we talk college football 24/7, and have commented your thoughts down below. Check out the description for any ways you can support the channel monetarily. Everything else I've asked you to do is completely free, and your support means the world to me. We're trying to become the next big thing on college football YouTube. 6-figure subscribers, maybe 1 million one day. I think we can do that. And also check out any videos or playlists, anything in these columns right here, where there will be videos and playlists. Yeah, you get the point. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next one.